Hey guys, welcome to Braddels Gaming. Today I'm going to be showcasing to you guys my first ever multiplayer map in a Far Cry game. This map is heavily inspired by Vietnam, and most of the assets you see on screen were used from the Vietnamese asset category that Ubisoft provided to us in an update about 6 weeks ago. The inspiration for this map was the Vietnam War and the Cu Chi tunnels, and this map is called Tunnel Rats, as you guys will find out soon. I made this map 6 weeks ago when the Vietnamese Hours of Darkness assets were released, and maybe I should have published it at that time, so perhaps this map would have thousands of plays. But at this stage, it only has the 27 because I only just published it. The reason for that is that I want to create a YouTube video, so I had to sort out a capture card, recording, editing, all the logistics that is required to make a map and upload a video to YouTube. So that took some time, but that was okay. It took me about 3 days, so about one weekend to create everything that you see before your eyes. And now I'm just basically going to go through my map. As you guys can see, there's Braddles Gaming YouTube, my tag. If you're a YouTuber, you should definitely include using the generic shapes, the letters. You should definitely include your YouTube name so people can find the video. But as you guys can see, this is why the map is called Tunnel Rats, and this is where the main inspiration comes from. I wanted to create a Vietnamese map that centered around tunnels. And while the tunnel system is fairly basic, there's not a whole lot of detail enshrined into the map, at least the tunnels that is. The reason for this is that I wanted the tunnels to be more of a effective way for players to transport themselves around the map rather than be, a real detailed sort of area. As you guys can see here, I did put down some palette of boxes and it did provide a bit of an obstruction for a player like myself to get through. But I decided to just add the one because I didn't really want the tunnels to be too obstructive. They're already confined as they are. And, if you were to get shot down in the tunnel, there's no cover for you to duck behind, so you're pretty much screwed. But at the same time, it is a good way to effectively get around the map with entrances sort of to the tunnels. There's only three, but they're pretty central to where the conflict is going to be. As you guys can see here, there's a bit of micro destruction going on, a bit of battlefield gameplay, if you will. But right now I'm in the US spawn, and one of the things that I did with the US spawn is I made the tunnel entrance to it quite hidden. You guys saw earlier that I came out of the bunker, and the reason for that is, during the Vietnam War, the Americans were not really aware of the Viet Cong's guerrilla warfare, and the Viet Cong used secret tunnels to get around and, basically booby trap the Americans and its allies in the jungle. And so, this being the US spawn, I wanted to make sure that, the people who spawned on the US side didn't really know where the tunnel entrance was, as opposed to the people who spawned on the Viet Cong side who do spawn in the tunnels, just to sort of, give the map a bit of historical accuracy, the Viet Cong starting in the tunnels and the US soldiers starting out of it. But, it's okay because, as I found out, not a whole lot of people use the tunnels when I was testing out the map on multiplayer, which was fine. I still used it, and it was, as I said, an effective way for me to get around the map sneakily and, flank my opponents. As you guys can see here, this is a little sort of side area. This is actually one part of the map that there wasn't a whole lot of conflict taking place. You guys will see some gameplay after this walkthrough here, so don't you guys worry about that. But this is just a little bit of a trench and a little bit of supply drop area that I decided to include just as another way for players to move around the map. As you guys can see, there is quite a lot of fog and planets. And, this being a jungle map, I didn't really want to clutter the map with a lot of objects and structures because that really wouldn't be, familiar with the, jungle sort of theme. So instead, I've added a lot of smoke effects and plants to create visual cover. And, you know, this sort of breaks up the sight line between you and your opponent, which means before you actually see your opponent, you get pretty close to them. And so the sort of average range in a gunfight is quite close to one another, which is really quite good because it means the gameplay sort of speeds up, but at the same time, it's not too open where you can see someone across the map and you basically know their whereabouts straight away. You actually have to get close to your opponent to be able to see them. As you guys can see here, this is the hatch entrance, and the hatch entrance provides a really good flanking route because it's kind of hidden away from the rest of the map. So, if the conflict is centered around this hut area, as you guys can see I'm entering now, if the conflict is centered around this structure here, you guys can go to the right of screen, or the left of screen as is now, back to the right of screen, and you guys can, shoot across towards the hut without anyone really knowing where you are or where they're being fired from. This is a little bit of a small sort of sandbag bunker here. As you guys can see, I'm doing a little bit of a cinematic shot. And now we're going to go back in. But yeah, as I said, the hatch provides a really good sort of flanking route. Instead of you charging towards the hut out in the open, you can use the tunnel system and really sort of surprise your enemies by getting behind them. Now we're going back up here just to quickly show you guys, here's the turret. And both the turret placements on this map are kind of gimmicks because I can't really see players really using them just because they're not really covered by any sort of ideal cover. So while they're very powerful guns, they probably won't be used too much just because, once you jump on them, you make yourself a very vulnerable target and a very active target. People instantly know where you are when you fire that gun. Some other things that I wanted to talk about were just some positives of the map. So, the classes are pretty balanced. I found that, the slingshot was a nuisance and very useless, and it was kind of annoying because whenever you want to switch to your shotgun, you would actually have to open the weapon wheel as opposed to simply just pressing Y to switch weapons. So the slingshot wasn't the most ideal thing for me to put into the classes, and I kind of wish that I didn't actually include it, but unfortunately I did just because I was like, detail guys. Also, another thing I want to mention about the turrets is they weren't really, put there as a practical application. They were more so just for detail, just to sort of give the players an image that this is a defensive post. But in reality, if you were to try and use that turret, it wouldn't be very effective. So if you guys are watching this, don't really go to the turret because it's a gimmick. Okay, so at the start of this gameplay that you're seeing on screen, it was only a 1v2, 2v1 actually, but the other person in my team, as you can see running to the left, they left, so it was only a 1v1, and I didn't completely mind this because over the course of this gameplay, it went from being 2 people in the lobby up to 12, so you guys can really evaluate a variance in the amount of chaos that happens on the map. So You guys can see how the map plays out when there's only 2 people on the map, and you can also see how the map plays out when there's 12 people on the map. And, you know, both extremes were still very fun. I found that in a 1v1 situation, it may have been a bit hard to find someone to kill, but in when it started to become a little bit more in terms of player count, it started to become a little bit more fun and a little bit more flowing, and it was fun either way, which I was very happy about because it meant that you're not always going to be able to get a full lobby. Sometimes it's going to be a half lobby, and you've just I was happy that my map was fun in both extremes because it meant that whatever your situation is, you're going to still be able to have some fun. Some other things I want to talk about before I end this commentary is, you know, some more positives. So, one of the key things was that the gameplay shifted around the map. This was something that I was quite surprised by because normally the gameplay only shifts around the map when it's an objective style game mode like domination, where you have attackers and defenders. You have people defending their flag and people trying to capture that flag, and so that's a good situation, well, a good example of when the gameplay shifts around the map. But in this team deathmatch gameplay that you see, the gameplay shifted around the map regardless of there being no, objective game mode, objective flags around the area. Sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit now, but this was something I was really quite happy with because it meant that there wasn't 1 or 2 areas of the map that were really dominant in gameplay. There wasn't really, and a couple areas where, they were made redundant with no one going there. The gameplay shifted around the whole map, which meant that the whole map was being used. And at the same time, it wasn't too spread out where there would only be 2 players in one area. For some reason, everyone was drawn to the center of the conflict, which was really good to see because it meant that the flow of the game was quite consistent and quite flowing. Uh, what else can I say? Spawn killing wasn't an issue. I suppose that's because if you try and spawn kill, you're putting yourself in quite a vulnerable position. So as you guys can see with me running around here, the US spawn, well, the US spawns are all in the buildings. However, if you try and camp outside a building, you're putting yourself in a situation where you can be hit from 360 degrees. And, I'm sure it'll make yourself a sitting duck and it'll make it very easy for someone to come up behind you and, take you down from behind. So spawn killing isn't an issue, which I was surprised about initially because I thought, with the map being so small, players would be able to get from either side of the map to spawn kill quite easily, but it wasn't an issue. So that's another positive on my map, guys. And I'm not just saying this because this is my map. I'm actually, from the bottom of my heart, telling you guys my honest experiences and opinions. I actually played 3 games on this map, 2 with full lobbies. However, those 2 gameplays I didn't actually record. I am a bit disappointed that I didn't record them because I got some pretty awesome trick shot grenade throws where I killed 3 people with one, was just doing cross maps and everything. And you guys probably don't know what I'm talking about now, but there is a grenade refill station on the map in the Vietnamese bunker. And the great thing about that is that it means that you can continue to do grenade trick shots, you know, uh, anytime you please. So even if you happen to run out of grenades, you can just run back there and refill your throwables, your dynamite, your grenades, your pipe bombs back up. So you can continue to have fun with throwables. And, you know, there's only one on the map, and the reason for that is I feel that if I added too many refill stations located around the map, it would just become a real chaotic mess with heaps of people just chucking grenades everywhere, and then the map getting really laggy, and then people rage quitting and that sort of thing. So for me to only add one little grenade refill station, I think was a really good thing for me to do, because it meant that everyone knew where the grenade refill station was, at least the people that went up there. But you know people weren't able to throw grenades everywhere because they still had a limited amount. I played a map where the guy gave people unlimited grenades, and by the end of the game, everyone was just running around in the middle of the dead man's area, because it was a trench map, and just chucking grenades at each other. It was pretty funny, and it was actually pretty fun, but I'm sure that's not what the map creator wanted everyone to do. But it was pretty hilarious, and maybe I'll go back to that sometime, and you know, I'll record a gameplay session where that is the case again, just because it was that hilarious. I think that is all I wrote down for me to talk about. Sorry if I stuttered a little bit. This is my first gameplay commentary, so I'm still sort of getting used to commentating to a succinct manner. So hopefully you guys can bear with me on that while I continue to get better at it. But thank you guys for tuning into the gameplay, tuning into the walkthrough, tuning into the video. This gameplay will continue to run until the game ends, but I will see you guys in the next video. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts in the comment section below. If you play this map and you come here, tell me what you thought of the map, because as a sort of newish sort of map maker, I'm open to all the feedback and criticisms you guys have. So yeah, just to help me improve and that sort of thing. But I will be signing out now, guys. This is Braddles out, and remember to have yourself a nice day.
You're almost there. You're almost there.